tell. It's gonna be a great Noel. It's the Advent Calendar House. Muppets, Batman, Smurfs, and even Garfield's Halloween. We're gonna take a trip down memory lane. Frosty, Rudolph, and a bunch you've probably never seen. It's Mike and pals that come to entertain. Turn the knob and lift the latch for fun and laughs that can't be matched. And just beware the icy patch. It's the Advent Calendar House.
Welcome back to the Advent Calendar House, sponsored by Pat's Pink Passion Punch, now available with half and half for that extra kick. You know, one of the things I've enjoyed since starting this podcast is discovering old specials that were classics to somebody, but I've never known about before. And today's is one of those, so sober up and please accept our invitation to a journey back to 1979 as we celebrate the season with Pat Boone and Family's Christmas special.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Boone. It's okay to be a kid at Christmas, to believe in love the way we did back then.
I am so boring my coat of arms is 2 loaves of white bread on a field of oatmeal, Mike Westfall. And joining me is the only one out of 300 people I invited to be on this episode who responded, but don't tell him that. It's Guy Hutchinson. Hey, Guy.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Oh, I am so excited to talk to you again. I look forward to our conversations. I was thinking about this earlier today. If it wasn't for the internet, you and I wouldn't have met.
No.
And I would be searching my town, walking around day and night saying, will someone talk to me for an hour about a Pat Boone Christmas special from 40 years ago? And I'd have no yeses. No one would say yes. So because of this, because of the internet, we're able to do this.
I am happy to be that someone for you. And thank you for introducing me to this.
Oh, yeah.
I need people listening to understand how long this has been in the works. You had this recommendation ready to go last year after we stopped recording Mr. T and Emmanuel Lewis.
We finished that one, and the first thing I did was text you, and I texted a couple plot points, which we'll get to, but I was like, and you were like, oh, I'm in. This is perfect. I'm ready to go for this.
Immediately sold. So was there any story behind your discovering this?
Yes. So I don't remember this from my childhood. I think it may have aired before I was born. And I don't remember ever seeing it re-air. But early in the days of YouTube, I would search for Christmas specials, and there was a clip of this, a very, very short clip. It was maybe 40 seconds, and it was of the opening number, which we'll get to. And I saw it, and I was like, I need to see this special. I wrote it down. And so I have a list of stuff that I'm always looking for, you know, movies, TV shows, specials, commercials I remember as a kid. And what I do is whenever I get a chance, every few months, I'll just search for each one on YouTube, check on archive.com, every place I can try to find them. And this was on that list. And then I guess it was maybe 2 years ago, right after Christmas. It was like December. Wow. It was so unfortunate timing that I searched for it and it was there. It was on YouTube in its entirety. I think it was $10. I bought it immediately and I watched it and I was in love. It was so different than I thought it would be, but it was so much what I wanted to see.
Yes. This was very much up a very specific alley of mine.
Yeah.
That and admittedly, I don't know much about Pat Boone.
Yeah, I mean, but he's one of those guys that he's been around forever. He's still working, I believe. I heard him not that long ago. I mean, within the past 6 months, on the radio promoting either a concert or an album or something, but They were talking about how he was in his 90s and he told some stories about, I think he opened for Elvis before Elvis was big, or Elvis opened for him, but he told some crazy stories. And I was just like, I can't believe Pat Boone's still out there doing his thing.
Well, he's actually 88. I looked that part up because I didn't even know he was still alive, but I don't remember ever hearing my parents play anything by Pat Boone. I remember my mom playing Debbie Boone.
Debbie Boone, of course, yes.
You Light Up My Life. That you couldn't escape that for a while.
I knew about Pat Boone. I mean, I remember he did like a metal album at one point
Yes.
that everybody I knew was like, this is the craziest thing ever.
This was, late 90s he did that. It was called In a Metal Mood, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And when he was promoting it on talk shows and award shows, he would wear this leather vest over his bare chest. He had temporary tattoos on and a choker collar. He'd be walking out on stage with Alice Cooper, and Alice Cooper, ever the showman, would be all in on it.
He was something. And the other thing that I knew about him, but did not hit me until I was watching this, was that I remembered jokes about how he had tons of gorgeous daughters. And early in this special, they go through them. And it's just like, I mean, it feels like 30 daughters he has, and they're all gorgeous.
They are. They absolutely are. And it's those two things continue to be kind of running gags throughout this thing. It's like the whole theme of Pat Boone's Christmas special is that Pat Boone's kind of boring.
Now, one thing that I like about this special and a lot of specials of this particular time period, like the early 70s to the mid 80s, is that the idea behind these specials were that we want everybody in the family to gather around and see this. So we're going to put something on there for the 5-year-old, and we're going to put something on there for grandma, and we're going to put something on there for the kid that's a teen. We're going to put something for everybody. So everybody, it's like a variety show to some degree. This one does have a narrative to it, but they're going to throw a bunch of different things at you. And this is kind of almost, I mean, you can absolutely follow this story, but this, I think, is more intended to be on while people are, in and out of the room watching it together.
Absolutely. And you can very clearly see those lines where it's like, this part's for the kids, this part's for the teenagers, and we'll get to them as we go. But let's get right into it. So Pat Boone and his family did a series of these holiday specials for ABC. There was a Thanksgiving one, an Easter one. I saw it's a springtime special, they called it. That's apparently different from Easter.
Yeah, Pat Boone did a lot of these. I mean, at that time period, there was also Andy Williams did a handful of them.
Oh, yeah.
And Perry Como. And Perry Como was even like, he was a punchline on Alf when they did their Christmas episode, that he was going to watch Perry Como's Christmas in Hawaii, which was a real show, which is pretty good. But this, to me, is almost the ultimate of that kind of a show, because it really runs the gamut of just weirdness in so many directions, and it's charming and a lot of other things.
It's so weird, and it's just a very specific kind of weird.
Yeah.
So let's get the details. Pat Boone and Family Christmas Special first aired, probably only aired as far as I know, December 8th, 1979, a Saturday night at 7 o'clock, not quite prime time because I guess Pat had to be in bed before that.
Yeah, and this was never put out on VHS, because I collected a lot of VHS specials. This came first, to like YouTube and DVD at the same time, because the audience that likes Pat Boone still has DVD players.
Sure. Yep. But if you want to watch this with us, this Christmas special is streaming as of this recording on Tubi. So I hope you can find it there by the time this drops. But let's dive in as we open with Pat leaving a toy store with a full bag of Christmas presents we never see again.
Right.
And then walks over to a snowy park area as we hear an announcer introduce him.
Yep. And so this is like a cold open, it just opens. And then he puts the bag of toys into the fountain, which he doesn't even look down. Now, granted, it's clearly cold. And if there was water in there, it's turned to ice, but he doesn't even look in to check like, is it all dirty down there? Is it just full of muck and weirdness? He just sets his bag in there and he's ready to go.
Very trusting in that fountain here. I'm like, and maybe that's why we never see it again, but... And then we get right into our opening number. It's okay to be a kid at Christmas.
It's okay to be a kid at Christmas, to believe in love the way we did back then. To let your heart reach out, that's what it's all about. It's okay to be a kid again.
Now, he starts off, we've got a bunch of like almost characters, these people that we see. We see a woman in her exercise gear.
Yes.
We see a cab driver. We've got a cop. And then we get a man in an overcoat who either looks like he's a detective or a pervert. I'm not sure which.
I have the note he looks like nearsighted Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah, I get that. I also thought, I think his name was Fargo North Dakota from Electric Company.
Yes. Wow.
But he's got he literally looks like he's wearing Groucho Marx glasses. Like he has the glasses, the nose, the mustache.
And he's the best dancer out of this whole group. He really gets into it. There's applause as Pat Boone is introduced. Was this taped before a live studio audience?
No, it's not. I'll tell you why I know that. If you watch, he does sort of like a monologue, and the applause is so canned during that. The laughter, the applause, all sounds like they're just pushing a button. He's he does like a laugh line, and then there's the applause and laughter, and then it mutes immediately so he can be like, just kidding, folks.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, this clearly is canned audience approval.
Yeah, but for a second it seemed plausible that it might have been. But then as we went on, I thought, okay, maybe they're piping this in later in post. But this opening number sets the tone for me right out of the gate. It's, like you said, very much a 1970s musical variety show. This opening number especially reminded me of a lot of another 1979 Christmas special starring John Denver and the Muppets. Which premiered 3 days before this.
Wow.
Same channel and everything.
Yeah, that is just as a side note, before I came on with you, I was listening to my Christmas mix that I have on my playlist on Amazon. And the greatest Christmas song, Kermit the Frog singing, I think it's called Christmas Wish.
I love that song.
It's such a beautiful song. It is a song that is way too beautiful to that. The fact that it's sung by a puppet frog, it just makes it, you blow your mind that a song could be this beautiful. But yeah, that's such a wonderful special.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of fuzzy characters, to that end,
yes,
in the middle of this song, while Pat's dancing with this handful of random park goers, he walks over to and knocks on a large tree nearby, which opens a door, and out walks Yogi Bear.
Yes. Now this next 45 seconds is the clip I had seen on YouTube. I expected this to be the whole special. It is not. So did
I. No.
But I still was very pleased with what we get after it. So, I had to wait you didn't have to wait long. I had to wait 10 years from seeing that clip to seeing the rest of the special.
Wow. Wow. No, it's a larger than life theme park version of Yogi Bear.
Yep. And these are good costumes. We get a whole bunch and almost a random assortment of Hanna-Barbera characters.
They're so random. Yeah, we've got Snagglepuss, Huckleberry Hound, Dynamut, Dog Wonder is in there.
Yeah. Hong Kong Phooey.
Hong Kong Phooey, one of my favorites.
Barney Rubble.
Barney Rubble comes out first, and then Fred Flintstone comes out behind Hong Kong Phooey, and then Scooby-Doo's bringing up the rear.
I mean, it's great. And they dance with him, and the costumes look great. It's super weird. It's super this is the kind of thing that, if you were sitting down and you had grandpa brought out some moonshine in 1977 and you had taken a sip of it and you were sitting there on the couch, you'd be like, oh my God, am I all right? Am I out of it? Did I fall asleep?
Yeah, these are theme park quality costumes. I know that there was a Hanna-Barbera section of Kings Island out in Ohio, so I'm wondering if they shipped those in from there or if there was another.
No, I'll tell you, I know where they're. I'm almost positive they were from Marineland of the Pacific, which would have been in California and had these same characters.
Okay,
and
well, there it is. But yeah, that's all we see of Yogi Bear and friends, despite them being credited in the opening credits that follow.
Know. It is disappointing because they announce everybody you're going to see, and they're like Yogi Bear and friends, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, that tricked me into thinking, they're going to be back. But
yeah,
nope.
I mean, I wish they came back even for the end. I wish they were there at the very end.
Oh, that would have been great.
I mean, that's what they got them for. If you do see the print ad that was in the TV guide, it did advertise them.
Yes.
Pat Boone and Family. A Christmas special starring Pat Boone, Shirley Boone, with Cherry, Lindy, Laurie, and Debbie Boone.
Well, after the credits, Pat greets us in front of his home. I'm using home in quotes here. It's
Right.
very much a soundstage. Wishes us a Merry Christmas, tells us he's particularly excited about this year because there's been a new addition to the family.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not a new father. He's a new father-in-law. He's talking about his daughter, Debbie's new husband. We will talk more about him a little later. We don't see Debbie's new husband, but...
Nope, but we do get more information on him a little later.
Yes, we do.
He's kind of a running gag. Now, to be fair, her marriage was something that everyone watching, would have known about.
Oh, yeah?
Because she was a very popular, and she was Pat Boone's daughter, and so this was kind of like your Ben Affleck, Jennifer.
Okay.
Who's he married to now? J-Lo.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. This was a celebrity, marriage.
Okay. Well, for now, let's meet Debbie, who's in the kitchen with her mom, Shirley Boone.
Oh, that was such a great lunch, Mom.
Oh, thanks, Deb. Boy, honey, it's just so nice to have you come and visit.
Mom, would you quit treating me like a guest? I'm still part of the family.
And Shirley is no longer with us. She died in 2019. She was 84.
Ah,
She and Pat were married 66 years at the time of her death.
wow. Yeah. Yeah, this is a storyline where, they're sitting around talking. There's some, talk about the new wedding and that stuff.
Yeah, they start talking about the family Christmas party that's still a few days away, maybe even a week at this point in the story. But Debbie asks her mom if she needs help with any food or anything.
Right.
And Shirley reveals they're having this year's party catered because Pat has invited 300 people to their house for this Christmas party.
And their TV house here does not look super spacious that it could accommodate 300 people, but somehow he was planning on squeezing them in.
No, it's not. It's, I would say, like houses you'd see in sitcoms later in the 80s were larger than this. Like the Family Matters house is bigger than this living room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, that became a thing with sitcoms that they always wanted the living room to be enormous so they could do whatever they needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a lot tighter.
Oh, yeah. Couch right in the middle. I can't imagine inviting 300 people to anything. I didn't invite 300 people to my wedding and definitely not to my house. So here Shirley explains Pat invited a lot of, quote, friends of the business because according to Pat, they often have to work during the holidays. So he thought it would be nice to share his family Christmas party with them. It's a nice thought, and Pat arrives to some disappointing news. Debbie and Shirley broke his Snoopy mug.
Oh, right. Yes.
We had a little accident, honey.
An accident?
We broke your Snoopy mug.
What? Oh, well, I've got a $5 deductible on it. It's okay.
It was a quick, I'm upset about this broken Snoopy mug, not because it's broken, but because we never come back to it.
Yeah.
But here is where Debbie heads out to go do some shopping. Meanwhile, Pat asks if any of his 300 friends have responded to his invite. And the first reply arrives with a ring of the doorbell.
Yep. This is great.
It's a trio of singing telegram delivery men who introduce themselves as the Teletoons, but in reality, they're the Hudson Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Yes? Hello? Who are you? I'm Ben. Hi, we're the Teletoons. We deliver message in a song.
Guy, this sent us down a deep rabbit hole.
So I looked them up. Now, I'd seen this the first time. I did no research. I just watched it. I enjoyed it. I've even watched it twice before I watched it for this. But for this, I said, well, let me find out who these Hudson brothers were. And so I looked them up. They had a show that was on the air. And this linked me to a video that I sent you. And boy, this was something.
You sent me a clip. Your clip was from a recent episode of Family Guy.
Yeah.
Where they just tossed to an actual clip of the opening to the Hudson Brothers Razzle Dazzle Show.
It's the Hudson Brothers Razzle Dazzle Show. Starring Bill, Mark, and Brett, the Hudson Brothers.
And it's just so crazy. I cannot recommend enough that everybody go out and seek this out. I believe now somebody has uploaded an actual episode of the show, but believe me, you get more than enough Hudson Brothers, show from this Family Guy clip.
Just from the opening.
It's the best cutaway gag I have ever seen on Family Guy, and they're known for cutaway gags.
Yeah, they didn't have to write anything. It's just you guys have to look at this right now. So the Hudson Brothers were a band together, and then they starred in this comedy variety show in 1974. And the opening credits to this thing feature the brothers and some other regular cast members riding a conveyor belt into the back of a very colorful van.
Yeah.
Among the cast is a young Peter Cullen in the flesh, the future voice of Optimus Prime himself.
Correct. Yep.
Also among the cast, just right in the middle of these credits, is someone in a bear costume credited as the Bear.
The Bear.
Yeah, they don't, and they play it as if it's just as normal as anything else.
They never explain it.
And the bear rides in, and they're all riding into this. It's like they're riding into a little tiny van, dozens of people.
It's a clown car van.
Yes.
Oh, we could talk all night about this Hudson Brothers show.
We cannot do enough justice to it, though. To me, if you watch this, I mean, if I didn't know better, if I just tuned into Family Guy, I would have been like, well, this is a gag. They filmed this. They, did a great job making it look like the right film stock and the right haircuts and everything else looks perfect. But there's no way that anything this stupid ever appeared on television.
But it's real. It's absolutely real. Sadly, there does not appear to have been a Christmas episode.
Oh, if there was, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. I would cancel all my plans.
Oh, it'd have to be your swan song. It would have to be the last episode you ever did.
I wish.
You need a big closer.
I do need a big closer. I have some ideas.
Yeah, like 40 years from now, you're like, I've done every single Christmas special ever made, and now it's time. The Razzle Dazzle Hudson Brothers. Oh, the bear is Santa Claus. It writes itself.
Really? But here they are, Bill, Mark, and Brett Hudson. Bill, notably at this point, was married to Goldie Hawn.
Oh, wow. That's Kate Hudson.
He's the father of Kate Hudson.
Wow, I didn't put that together. Okay, that's awesome.
And Kate Hudson was born a few months before they recorded this special.
Get out.
Yes.
All right.
Brett Hudson is now a TV and film producer. Most notable thing I saw in his IMDb list was a documentary called The Seventh Python about Neil Innes, who worked with Monty Python.
Oh, wow. Neil Innes was something else.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And Mark Hudson, he's the one with the beard, later became a frequent collaborator with Ringo Starr and with Aerosmith. He co-wrote Living on the Edge.
Wow. I got to tell you, Neil Innes, I brought my son to meet him when my son was a baby, because Neil Innes was doing a show at a public library, but a big one that was, like 40 minutes from my house. Okay. And I said, you're the first celebrity he's ever met. And he looks at my son and just like with the saddest expression, he's like, it's all downhill from here. You'll never. He was just a brilliant, very funny man.
But here are the Hudson Brothers. They're playing the Teletoons, who have come to deliver Pat a singing telegram. But first, they need to see some ID.
Yes.
And Pat's idea of ID is singing a few bars of his classic song, April Love.
Let's see some ID. ID? This is my house. You just walked in here. I'll give you some ID. April Love.
Aha! I knew he wasn't Pat Boone. He's April Love. Boone. April Boone.
And this stuff it's a real almost like Abbott and Costello kind of comedy, where it's real quick and it's real funny. This stuff is genuinely very good. And it feels like this was a lot of times with specials like this. And even at other points of the special, it feels like this is a one take thing. We got to get through this. But this segment feels like they rehearsed this. They worked this out. The timing is really good.
They had to have. They even brought Shirley in. Pat asked, can you tell these guys who I am? And she asked, did you forget again? Shirley then confirms he is indeed Pat Boone, to which Brett replies,
it is him, Pat Boone, idol of dozen.
That might be my favorite insult in this whole special.
The special is full of Pat Boone insults too, which is so great.
They are. He is a very good sport about all of this, but I guess, thinking back to that metal album he did, it all clicks. So they bring Pat and Shirley into their own living room along with a whole orchestra that's been waiting outside to perform this singing telegram that's from Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
Well, Pat's eyes light up, and he even calls in his daughters to hear it as well, and we are treated to the Hudson Brothers singing Frank Sinatra's reply to Pat Boone's invitation to the tune of a classical song everyone knows, but few know the name of. Y'all probably just call it Figaro. It's the Figaro song.
Here is a telegram specially for Pat Boone. Out of the wire, out of the wire.
It's by Gioacchino Rossini. Its actual title is Largo al Factotum, which means make way for the factotum.
Very good. Now, here's the thing. You probably mispronounced all of that wrong, but no one listening to this would know any better.
Nope.
Like there is not a lot of crossover.
No, but Figaro is the titular barber of Seville, and he sings this song about how awesome he is, like a wrestler who sings his own entrance theme. That's what that song is.
Very nice.
But here's the Hudson Brothers version, or Frank Sinatra's maybe. It's not clear who wrote the singing telegram.
Yeah, I'm sure old Blue Eyes sat up and wrote this for Pat.
Sure, yeah. It's about a minute and 45 seconds before they finish with the answer's no.
Yes.
And with that, the Hudsons and their orchestra file out of there.
Yeah. No, this is a great number. I'm so glad we went through it, because this one of the highlights. I really feel like there's so many more highlights to come. But again, if you're going to watch this is a great part.
Oh yeah, this is one. If you're fast forwarding through this, stop and watch this part. It's worth it.
Yeah, don't slow down for this. There are some fast forward moments, which we're going to get to soon.
There are. And Pat's disappointed, but Shirley comforts him, saying they still have 299 people left to hear back from. It'll be okay. And here's where I first noticed there's a chalkboard full of names in the back of Pat's living room.
I took great note of this, and I have some points to one particular point to mention in a little bit. But yes, I sat there and looked at all the names, and a lot of them you do hear later in the show.
Yes, and then I have it's not 300 names on this chalkboard, but
there's a lot of them though.
Yeah.
And some good ones on there.
There are. The list I have of names that they don't call back to are people like Dean Martin and Barbra Streisand and Johnny Carson. Kermit the Frog's on there.
Yes, he's on there.
Henry and Jane Fonda. Julia Child, John Denver, the Los Angeles Lakers, just all of them.
Just all of them, the whole group.
Someone wrote Judge Crater as a weird joke.
Oh, yeah, that I don't get.
Well, New York State Supreme Court Justice in 1930 mysteriously disappeared.
Oh.
Which led to the expression to pull a Judge Crater means to mysteriously disappear.
Okay. All right.
There's a name near the bottom that says Ayatollah Weintraub. That's not, I looked that up. That's nothing. The last name on the list is Claire Zero. I don't know what that means either.
I mean, one of the important things to remember is you're seeing this so much clearer than anybody could see it, because older televisions they didn't have the same qualities as the televisions today. And like, I took a tour in the early 2000s of the set of ER. And one of the things they were talking about was, as they were starting to get more clear televisions and moving towards a high definition, they had to take things away that they said we used to write on the board, with in the background in ER. They said we would write dirty jokes and stuff up there. And they said we had to erase a lot of that, and it has to be real stuff, because now people can see the background, they can record, and nowadays, I mean, with this, we could see that pretty clear, and we could pause it all day long.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And we did, clearly.
Yes.
And Sinatra's name was the first name on that chalkboard. That would have been Pat Boone's biggest get for this party, so no wonder he's disappointed.
Of course.
Well, now we cut back to the park. It's nighttime now, and here is where Debbie Boone sings I'll Never Say Goodbye.
Say goodbye. Why, I can barely say goodnight.
Ooh, Debbie sings for a long time, and it's not like
She
a
does.
Christmas standard. It's nothing to it's a long song, and it's one of those where they just keep doing, like, they're changing angles so they have some movement involved, there's zoom in and zoom out. This is, if you're watching this and you're like, this is tough, you just hit the fast forward here. You're not gonna miss anything.
Yeah, it's not a Christmas song at all. It's actually the theme from the movie The Promise from earlier in that year.
Wow.
And Debbie recorded a cover of this song earlier in 79. And now we can talk about her new husband. It's Gabriel Ferrer, and this song was performed at their wedding by Gabriel's mother, Rosemary Clooney.
Yes, indeed, who we will hear from a little later on.
We will. Her name's on that chalkboard.
A very, very famous entertainer. She also, I believe she's the aunt of George Clooney.
Yes.
But she was an absolute household name, a legendary musician at this time period. And so that's why I'm saying this was a celebrity couple.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and his father is Jose Ferrer.
Yes. So, I mean, this guy's a Kardashian. And I believe they're still married. I believe him and Debbie are still married.
Yes, still married. Yeah.
So they're still working it.
Yep.
I think that's great.
It really is, yeah.
It'll be great if they split up right before this show comes out. Like tomorrow, they call it quits.
I don't know. From what I've seen doing research for this one, those Boone daughters stand by their men. Well, we come back from commercial after this as Pat answers the phone. It's Gavin MacLeod.
Look, I want to thank you for the invitation. I just got it. I really appreciate it. But as you know, Love Boat's on hiatus for a while. And, well, Patty and I are going to take a real cruise. So we won't be back till the 17th.
Oh, hey, that's okay. The party's on the 18th.
Oh.
Yes. Now, this is interesting because when they show his name on the chalkboard, he was added after the last scene over top of Mr. Whipple. So Mr. Whipple had been erased from the board and Gavin MacLeod was added. Now this, and I'm sure you have some notes on the scene, but this scene is very short. And my guess is that they were like, hey, we're able to get Gavin MacLeod. Let's erase somebody, put Gavin MacLeod's name on there and throw him in the show.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I thought it was just, they recorded it out of order and they didn't bother to keep the chalkboard accurate. So that's
that could be.
It's probably a little of both.
I think Gavin, stumbled by the set, was saying hi to Pat, and they were like, hey, stand over in this corner and we'll shoot this.
Here, can we shoot this? Captain Steubing himself, along with his real-life wife, Patty, and they're doing the awkward TV thing where they're holding up the phone receiver in between each other so they can both hear Pat, I guess.
Yeah, nobody today can know what that's like. But when you used to have big old honking phones in your house, and you didn't have a second extension, because the second extension in the house, that thing didn't come around until almost the 90s. Houses had one phone, and so you had to go to usually the kitchen to talk on the phone. And so if you were talking to a family member from out of town, everybody would stick their ears as close together and try to listen.
That's right.
No speaker phones, no FaceTime.
I didn't have a speaker phone until the 90s, and even then it was like this big tan box. But the Love Boat captain has called to tell Pat they can't make his party because they're going on an actual cruise and won't be back until the 17th. But hey, lucky for Pat, his party's on the 18th. And that's when Patty chimes in, oh, well, another day at sea won't kill us. Click.
What's interesting about the Love Boat is they actually would go on a cruise to film those episodes. So they would film portions of it on a soundstage, but a lot of that show was filmed at sea.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize
that. I mean, that was part of how they got all those guest stars. That's why every episode had 10 amazing guest stars, because the deal was, hey, you get to go on a free cruise.
Sure, I'll go on a cruise.
Yeah.
They got to bring that back.
I know. They actually, the original Love Boat went on its last sailing, I want to say like 2006, 2007 or so.
Wow. I would have never guessed that recent.
Oh yeah. So the ship was owned by the Princess Cruise Line. Then they sold it to another line, and they sailed with it for a long time because it was the love boat. It was the ship, and so people wanted to go on it. And then eventually it had to be scrapped. So they finally put it away. But they did like a special thing where it was the last cruise on the Love Boat, and a lot of people went. I think some of the cast members were on it. So yeah, the Love Boat. By the way, if you're a younger person, you've never seen it, I really recommend it. When I was a kid, I always thought it was like a really serious show, and I've now watched it as an adult. It's hysterical, and there are some Christmas episodes.
Oh, okay. I'm putting that on my list,
including one where Mickey Rooney plays an angel that lives on top of a tree.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that is now on the list. Stay tuned. I should note here, Pat just said his party's on the 18th. Later, he says it's on a Friday night. December 18th, 1979 was a Tuesday.
Let me just say, there is no other podcaster that would do that research. This is such a testament to you.
Thank you. This is what you come here for, folks. But now in walks Pat's eldest daughter, Cherry.
More ejections.
How many?
Daddy.
I'm a grown man, Cherry. I can take it. How many?
42 more people turned us down.
Will you excuse me just a minute?
Well, at least they're prompt. Well, that's got Pat bummed out, so he tells Shirley he's going to go down to the milk bar to unwind.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we cut to a very different scene. We now see backstage on the set of a whole different show, The Ropers, in the dressing room of Mr. Roper himself, Norman Fell.
Just love Christmas cards. Even this one I got from the post office. We've enjoyed serving you this past year and look forward to serving you again in 1977.
Now, this is very strange. So to start off with, Norman Fell's talking to himself in the beginning of this sequence. No one else is there. But Audrey Lindley is in this with Norman Fell, and they are playing themselves in name, but they're playing in character the Ropers. They are clearly playing a married couple that acts exactly like the Ropers, but have their given human name.
You're right.
It's weird. I mean, it is like, for those of you that watch wrestling, this is like if all of a sudden, a wrestler comes out, starts calling himself by the real name, talking about his real, you're like, what's going on with you? They're breaking kayfabe right here in the middle of this special.
Norman Fell notably was Jewish, but he's either breaking the fourth wall here or just talking to himself about how much he loves Christmas cards.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't?
Right.
And Audrey sent him a great one.
Yes. He thanks her for the lovely card, which included $2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't feel bad. $2 is $2. You give what you can.
No, I mean, I sent you my nephew's card, and I sent him a subscription to Playboy. And he's only 11.
Lucky kid.
Whoops.
And his reaction, this is such, Norman Fell was the best at like the facial response, not having to say a word and get a laugh. And this is a good example of that.
Yeah, just lucky boy.
Yes.
That's a weird gift for a coworker.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why we all wish we had Audrey Lindley as a coworker.
I guess so.
I mean, this is a different era for sure.
Yeah, that's true. But the reason Audrey Lindley stopped by was to ask Norman what he's wearing to the Boone's Christmas party, and he quickly replies, I'm not going to that thing. Audrey insists it'll be fun, but that's Norman's cue to go into this tight 30 seconds on how boring Pat Boone is.
Yeah, it's pretty good, too.
Fun party with Pat Boone. May I remind you all that in the last Olympics, he took the gold medal for boring.
Okay, forget it.
His coat of arms is 2 loaves of white bread on a field of oatmeal. He had a flag, it would be gray.
I guess not.
His birthstone is lint.
Stop.
His idol is Captain Kangaroo.
Enough.
But that sets something off in Audrey. She is sick and tired of people making fun of Pat Boone just because he's nice. Okay, that's an interesting hill to die on.
Yeah, she's the one Pat Boone defender in this. Pat Boone is not a Pat Boone defender in this program.
No.
He's got Audrey standing up for him. The Ropers, by the way, was a spinoff that they wrote them into.
Right.
And it's a decent show if you ever get a chance to pull up an episode. But one of the interesting things about it was they pulled them from that show because the show, Three's Company, was so successful and they were so popular, people wanted more. So kind of like they did with Flo on the TV series Alice, they pulled them apart, gave them a spinoff. And the idea was, hey, if your show doesn't do well, you can come back on the real show. But then they brought in Don Knotts. He was so popular, they didn't want to bring them back. So they kept the Ropers on the air longer than it should have been, just so they could meet their contractual obligations to not bring them back. And I love Three's Company, and it is such a toss-up between Don Knotts and Norman and Audrey.
Yeah, I could go either way.
Yeah, really, really. It's almost like on Cheers with Coach and Woody, where you have two very solid, and it's like, ooh, which one do I like better? I don't know. I like them all.
Don't make me choose.
Yeah.
But now Audra starts listing off names of other people invited to Pat Boone's party, and it's the combination of Cheryl Ladd and Cheryl Teagues that convinces Mr. I want a Playboy subscription for Christmas to go.
He's like, little eyebrows go up.
Right.
Yes, he's ready. He's ready to go there for this.
We then cut to the Milk Bar, a quaint little cafe called the Milky Way, where Joey behind the bar gives Mr. Boone a very enthusiastic greeting.
Mr. Boone!
Hey, Joey.
And Joey the bartender is played by Perry Lang. I know Perry Lang as one of the infamous Black Sox in the movie 8 Men Out.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
He's like the third baseman in there.
Yeah, I mean, he is a very familiar face if you watched a lot of stuff. I believe he's still working like as a director or
looks like
producer or something. But he's one of those people that had a very long career as a character actor and a lot of TV stuff. So, like, if you look at him, you're like, he looks very familiar.
He reminds me of a young Gary Marshall, but Gary Marshall would have been way older for this part at this point. But for some reason, that's what was hitting me with this.
Yeah, I can see it.
It was like, he reminds me of, imagine Thomas F. Wilson doing an impression of Gary Marshall, and here you are.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, he really looks like Biff and acts like Gary Marshall. It is definitely that.
Yeah. Here he's Joey, the awkward milk bartender, who answers the phone, and it turns out it's for Pat.
Yeah, well, who else goes to the milk bar?
I guess that's it.
The milk bar has to be, they're bleeding money every month, just hoping Pat will leave a big tip every time.
Yeah, he's the only one in there.
He's got to be keeping that place in business.
Right, and what random guest star could be calling Pat Boone at the milk bar?
Oh, yes.
It's Tom Bosley.
Every day I have lunch at the Paramount Commissary with all the stars there. Henry Winkler, Robin Williams, Ronnie Howard, Penny Marshall, the whole crowd.
I know.
And today I couldn't believe it. They were all talking about your Christmas party.
Really?
That's right. None of us are coming.
The great Tom Bosley. I am a huge fan of Tom Bosley. This is another one where, he appears to be on a soundstage that they just threw a telephone on a table in front of him. It's complete blackness behind him.
Yeah, the lights are off behind him.
Yeah, and again, these are cameos that are billed at the beginning of the show and then are seconds long.
Yep. Last time we talked about Tom Bosley on this podcast, he was in The Stingiest Man in Town as beloved Christmas Carol narrator H. Humbug.
Yeah, he was. Tom Bosley, everybody knows him from Happy Days.
Sure.
But he was just a character actor that he did a lot of stage work, very talented, and appeared in a lot of stuff. He was just like one of those faces that when you saw him in the ensemble of a movie, you were like, this is going to be a fun time.
Oh, yeah. Here he's calling on behalf of fellow Happy Days and Happy Days adjacent actors Henry Winkler, Ron Howard, Robin Williams, and Penny Marshall, he names.
Yeah.
All names on that chalkboard, I might add.
Right.
To tell Pat none of them are going to his party, and he hangs up.
Now, sadly, if they had gone, like if, for example, the Norman Fell and Audrey Lindley couldn't do it, they probably would have gotten Tom Bosley and one other person like Mrs. C, and they would have done the exact same routine.
They would have.
But oh yeah. So, and that's unfortunately the last we're going to see of Tom Bosley.
Yeah. And now Pat's upset all over again. So he asks Joey to leave the bottle of milk.
That's right. He needs a hard glass of milk.
Sure does. But at Shirley's suggestion earlier, Pat invites Joey to his party. And Joey is honored, but he's got to check his schedule. And unfortunately, he's got a busy night of watching Star Trek, Gilligan's Island, and Wild Kingdom. Can't miss those.
I gotta say, that's a pretty good night.
It is a good night, and this is in the early days of the VCR, so not everybody had one.
Yes, because these are, by this point, these are older shows.
Sure, I say that, and any kids listening to this be like, what's a VCR?
Yeah. The VCR was a revolution, though. I mean, people cannot, like, I was trying to explain this to my son the other day. When we were kids, you and I, if a show was on television and you watched it, you could go to school and find a third of the class had seen it.
Yeah.
Whereas today, if you watch something at home, you go tell the kids at school, they've never heard of it. And so they go watch it the next day and nobody can talk about anything together.
Nope. This is why spoiler culture is the thing, because not everybody's on the same schedule anymore.
Yeah. I mean, but there was a time period like today, you can be the star of the biggest show on Netflix and you can probably go to a small town, walk into a restaurant. No one will recognize you. You could sit down, eat a meal. At this point in time, Norman Fell couldn't set foot in a restaurant without everyone buying him a drink.
Yeah, really. Well, and to top things off for Pat, in walks a mailman looking for him, with even more rejected invitations.
Dear Pat, sorry I can't come to your Christmas party. Thanks, Perry Como.
Some of them don't even say thanks.
You've been reading my mail?
Oh, no. You see, I couldn't help it. You see, the envelopes are so thin, the paper, it's easy to see right. And there's postcards, that's.
And this mailman's got a familiar voice, and then I realized, oh, it's Marty Ingalls.
That's right, and he has been featured on this show.
Yes, he was the voice of Pac-Man.
He was a very funny man, had interesting voices, and he was in a time period where I always confused him with Marty Allen, who was another comedian of that era. But Marty Ingalls was great, and this is a small part, but he really steals this moment.
He does. He dumps an entire bag's worth of rejection replies on a table, including replies from Perry Como and Milton Berle.
Oh, yes.
And that's the last we hear of those two. Well, Pat goes to pay Joey, who tells him during the Christmas season it's on the house.
Ah, very nice.
But tips aren't. and Pat tips well. And next, we get Cherry, Lindy Boone, and Laurie Boone, along with the Hudson Brothers, are back performing their rendition of We Are Family.
We are family. I got all my sisters with me.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Kind of weird. At the time, this was a new song. Was released in April 1979. This version might be one of the final nails in disco's coffin.
I wish they had sung They Are Family and they each pointed at each other. like the Boones pointed at the Hudsons and they were all, because it is weird. They're not all family together.
No, none of them are married to each other. Yeah.
But they're not.
No. It's a fine performance. Interesting stage. It reminds me of inside the Spaceship Earth ride at Epcot when you're in the very top and you're starting to make your way down while you look at your future on the monitor.
There are a few people that would know what you're talking about, but you're talking to one that absolutely clicks with me 100%.
I knew you would understand. And the Hudson Brothers are wearing these pink and red satin suits. It's a look. Again, not a Christmas song, but one of the backdrops at the very end of this number does end up looking like a series of triangles shaped like a Christmas tree.
Yeah. But again, I mean, like the idea here is you want to entertain everybody. So you mentioning that this was a popular song at that time, that makes sense. You know, you got a teenager in the house. He's like, oh, I like this song. Okay, I'll listen to this version of it.
We'll return after these messages.
When the tree needs decking out,
we use the card that carries clout. When my Christmas cash starts running out, I don't panic because I've got clout.
When the Yuletide spirit gets to me, I use my CLOUT, Master Charge.
the #1 card in the world.
When you carry Master Charge, you carry clout.
Merry Christmas.
And we come back to a clip of Pat on Dinah Shore's talk show, Dinah and Friends.
Are you having a lot of people?
Oh, yeah, I think so, a lot, yeah.
Well, I tell you, when all of them have left, why don't you just come on by? You know, we'll...
Well, will yours still be going at 9?
9? Well, I don't know. They may have left by then, but you come on by anyway.
Excuse me for butting in like this.
No, I'm just so glad.
Yeah. Now this is not introduced. So this is at least for me, I didn't know immediately who this was. And it took me a moment to be like, okay, and why is he there? And what's going on? Because she's like talking to the crowd. She's like, oh, you know, they had these drums and they were playing these drums. And all of a sudden Pat wanders in, ruins her story, ruins her show, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, all we hear about is how nice he is. He's kind of a jerk here.
Yeah, just walks up to her, interrupting her monologue on her own show to invite her to his Christmas party. They're nice and awkward about it. Cute bit. Wouldn't you know it? I'm having a party the same night. And you know what? This is cheating. This is not Dinah Shore making a cameo on Pat Boone's Christmas special. This is Pat Boone making a cameo on Dinah and Friends and sneaking it into his Christmas special as an advertised Dinah Shore cameo.
Is that true? Do you believe that that's what happened?
Yeah, this is clearly an episode of her talk show.
It's clearly on her show, and I'm assuming he had been a guest on her show. I'm wondering if this, I looked and I couldn't find anything, but I'm wondering if this exists from the other perspective. Like this crossover, you know, was part of the episode of, you know, that she was shooting.
Oh, I assumed it was.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, because the way it's shot, the way it's shown is different than everything else in the show.
Yeah, it looks like they just a clip from previously on Dinah and Friends.
By the way, she is wearing a belt buckle in this scene. When you go back and watch it again, this is a belt buckle that like Hulk Hogan would be proud to sport. She's wearing quite a belt buckle. Yes. Apropos of nothing. I have nothing else to say about it. I'm just pointing it out.
Dinah Shore's belt buckle. That's now in the show notes.
And that also is the name of my band. We're
Dinah Shore's belt buckle. Well, we cut back to the Boone residence, and we're in the kitchen again with Shirley and now Laurie, the youngest Boone daughter, who's upset because she just broke up with her boyfriend, leaving her dateless for the family party.
Mom, it's just not that easy to find Mr. Perfect.
Laurie, honey, I got news for you. Your daddy wasn't always a 10. What? Honey, no man's perfect in the beginning. It's like buying a house, no matter how beautiful it is. Every wife wants to do her own remodeling.
And we go into a duet of that beloved holiday classic, Marry the Man Today from Guys and Dolls.
Marry the man today. You're kidding. Trouble though he may be.
And he would be.
Much as he likes to play.
He does.
Crazy and wild and free. Marry the man today.
Yeah. Again, I mean, these songs, this is part of the reason why this was not a perennial Christmas favorite, because these songs are so weird.
Yeah, this lack of Christmas music is not a complaint, I promise. It's just not what I expected from a Pat Boone Christmas special, but I really should have remembered it's a 70s variety special first and foremost. But spoiler alert, Laurie did not marry the man today, or from what I can tell ever. The man she broke up with, as according to this script, is named Michael here, but Laurie would go on to marry Christian singer Harry Browning. So, different guy altogether. This, again, is a fine performance by mom and daughter, but my favorite part is near the beginning where Laurie randomly juggles 3 apples.
Yes, yes. Well, I guess she knew how to do that, and they were like, well, we got to throw that in.
Got to throw it in somewhere. And speaking of marriages to men, the phone rings again, and it's the aforementioned Rosemary Clooney.
Here she is.
Debbie's mother-in-law as of that year, who gently rejects Pat's invitation with a song.
I'm beginning to work a lot at Christmas.
Business before pleasure, huh?
And I could use the dough.
Well, I really am glad to hear it.
And I'll be there in spirit. Merry Christmas and a ho, ho, ho.
Yep. And she has to work on Christmas because she's got to pay the bills and she's got to sing.
That's
which
right.
Makes sense. I mean, you feel like there's few things you'd want to do than, like go to some casino and see Rosemary Clooney on stage on Christmas Day. It's what Santa would have wanted.
That's right. So there's a Christmas song, and here comes another. We come back from another break with Pat's rendition of I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Pat belts this one out, baby.
He does. He whistles in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, this is a good number. This is the number that I would not skip, by the way.
No, this is what you come to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the main event. That's why we're getting towards the end, and this is it. This is like, this is what everybody's waiting for. Everybody rushes in. Mom, puts the food on the stove off to the side. And everybody runs in to check this out.
That's right. In front of his dimly lit tree and even more dimly lit living room. It's a nice little ambiance going on here. And after this, we cut to the night of the party. Whether it's Friday or the 18th, we'll never know, but Norman Fell and Audra Lindley have arrived at the Boone's front door, and Norman needs to get a few last-minute Pat Boone sucks jokes out of his system before they ring the doorbell.
Yes, he does.
He's so boring that his pool's in the shape of a yawn. All right, Brett, a promise is a promise.
Now just get it through your head. Pat Boone is not boring.
I've got to say, Audra is not convincing me as she tells Norman to get it into his head. Pat Boone is not boring.
It almost has the opposite effect. It enforces our belief that Pat Boone, for those of you watching that are like, I've never heard of Pat Boone, all you know now is that he is indeed boring.
Well, and to that end, they ring the doorbell, Pat says hello, and Norman immediately falls asleep. That's a great bit. No, they come in, Pat takes their coats, and Norman and Audra stop dead in their tracks to find an empty living room with an untouched spread of food. They're the first ones here. We get a few jokes about some small trophies Pat has on display, including one for water weighting, one for singles tennis, which would have been bigger if Pat had played against someone. Now Shirley joins them, and they all take a drink from a punch bowl of Pat's Pink Passion, which is a little stronger this year than in Christmases past because this time he added half and half to the milk.
Right. Yes. Yeah, of course, there's no liquor in this punch.
No. Soon they are joined by the final Boone daughter, Lindy.
Daddy, while you were out, Don Rickles called.
Oh, what'd he say?
He said he can't come to the party. He said he had to take his snake to the dentist.
Probably had an impacted fang.
And Shirley tells us that's rejection number 298, meaning Audra Lindley and Norman Fell are the only 2 out of 300 to show up to this party.
They are it.
And now Norman's disappointed because Cheryl Ladd and Cheryl Teagues aren't coming. Or Jackie Bissett.
Which who wouldn't be disappointed about seeing that in that year? Mike, let me ask, have you ever had an experience where you went to a party that was poorly attended? And because I did have
Did you?
Experience.
I can't say that I have, that I can remember.
So this is a memory that didn't click with me until years after it happened. But I went to a birthday party of a kid in my grade school who wasn't very popular, and I wasn't friendly with him. But We both were in the same class. It was a pretty big class. And I went to his birthday party, and I was the only kid that went there.
Oh, wow.
And here's the crazy thing. At the time, I didn't notice that this was a bad thing. I was like, this is awesome. I remember his mom being grumpy, but like me and the kid, we were like, this is great. We get to eat the whole cake, the two of us. We get to play all the games. We get to do whatever we want. This is perfect. So we had a really fun time, and we became friends after that. But I do remember it was him, his mom, and the dog, and that was
that's it.
It was me, him, but we had a good time. And
good.
And if he is listening, Mike, he is also Mike. He's
okay.
Not you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what if he was? But if he is listening out there, I had a good time. We should do it again sometime. See if the dog's still around. Maybe we can get together and have some cake.
Probably not. But I'm so glad that had a happy ending. But Norman tries to leave, asking for his dinner to go. And this is when Audra stands up and says, "You don't have to get this man anything." Tells Norman to sit down. And now we get some dramatic music playing for a big monologue. It's like you get like the snare drum in the background. It's like a Patton monologue.
298 people are that much poorer this night for not knowing the warmth and cheer of Pat Boone and his family. And I'm just so sorry I can't stay myself.
Yes. I mean, I jumped off my couch at this moment, and I pledged allegiance to the flag. Right. I downed a glass of milk. I made sure my shirt was buttoned up to the top. I was all in.
And then she ends it with, "And I'm just sorry I can't stay myself." Leaving Norman there by himself. That was cold.
That's a great gag.
That was a great gag. And just kidding, she didn't leave. She brings out the Boone daughters, and wait, the Hudson brothers are still here.
Well, now we have a party.
Yeah, they're themselves this time. And we end with a Christmas medley.
And truthfully, this is about how many people you need at your Christmas party, not 300.
No, this is a good size. We start our Christmas medley with the girls on the stairs singing what I think now is a pretty obscure traditional Christmas song. It's called "We'll Dress the House with Holly Bright."
We'll dress the house with holly bright and sprigs of mistletoe. We'll trim the Christmas tree tonight and set the lights aglow.
Followed by "Christmas Is A-Comin'," a.k.a. "May God Bless You," which was a lesser-known Bing Crosby holiday single.
A turkey leg for poor old me. If you haven't got a turkey leg, a turkey wing will do. If you haven't got a turkey wing, may God bless you.
These are not the songs that you see like synchronized to lights with the house in your neighborhood that has too many lights. They don't use these. We need to bring these back.
Yeah, let's bring some of them back. Let's hear some covers of them.
I mean, people are sick of some of the other ones. People are like, "Oh, Christmas music's starting too early." That's because we're playing too few songs. There's more to play.
Right. They mix in some popular ones. Silver Bells is next.
Silver bells, silver bells.
The girls sing the Carol of the Bells after that, with the Hudsons just sitting by the fireplace very casually.
Christmas is here, bringing the cheer to young and old, big and the bold.
Silver Bells is great. It's Christmas time in the city. I love Silver Bells.
It's a good song. Pat and Debbie do a duet of the Christmas Waltz.
Frosted window panes, candles gleaming inside, painted candy canes on the tree.
Santa's on his way, he's filled his sleigh with thee.
The girls sing a really nice verse of "O Little Town of Bethlehem."
Little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie.
Beautiful. And I mean, of course, this is the most musically talented television family doing a special at this time, next to the Osmonds.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're probably the other family doing this.
Sure. And the Boone daughters had at least one album, probably more, but they were together as a group. They were just billed as the Boones.
Yeah. And this was kind of a Jackson 5 kind of scenario where you had one member that just was more famous than everybody else.
Yep. And everyone finishes with a verse of Joy to the World, including Norman and Audra now singing with them.
Let earth receive her King.
Awkwardly, the Hudsons here are paired up with 3 of the 4 Boone daughters.
It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of like, what's going on here now? But
yeah, at first I forgot. I was just like, oh, wait, are their husbands here now? Wait, no, it's still the Hudson brothers.
Yeah, why aren't their husbands? Their husbands either weren't invited.
No, where are they?
What's going on? I mean, one of them we know broke up.
Yeah.
Are the rest of them, they're all single? Is that what's going on? And for some reason, Debbie's husband doesn't show up. What's going on here?
No, Laurie's the only one who's single. The other 3 are married, and Laurie's sitting there with Mark Hudson. Cherry's the one by herself. She's the oldest. She's on the couch like a good spouse. And that's it. Then at the end, everyone else is kind of gathered in the background, pretending to mumble conversation with each other as Pat thanks everyone for watching and allowing his family to share their Christmas with us. And we hear carolers outside. They're singing Silent Night. Pat opens the door and then leads them into "O Come All Ye Faithful" as we roll credits.
Faithful, joyful, and triumphant.
Yeah, now they do go out the way you need to. You go out with a bang. You don't linger too long. But come on, Yogi Bear and friends should have come out for this number.
Right.
They should have, like halfway through this, they should have come out. So they're there for the very end. I feel like it would have. It's the one thing that I feel like is missing.
Yeah, as they kind of pan up and out, that's when they could have done it. They do pan up and out on everybody at the party and this group of Christmas carolers.
Yeah, it would have tied the whole thing. It was a bow that needed to be put on this gift and wasn't.
No. But still, what a ride this was, Guy.
Yeah, no, this is quite a special. This was, I told you, I had seen just that part and I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see this Yogi Bear Pat Boone special. And then it turns out not to be that, but boy, this was something. This was awfully weird. My text message to you after we did our last recording was, it's got Yogi Bear, it's got Huckleberry Hound, it's got Pat Boone, it's got the Ropers sort of playing the Ropers. It's super weird. And you were like, I'm in.
Yes. No, this needed more Yogi Bear, but we'll get him some other year.
Oh, we will.
This was fun to talk about. Thank you so much, Guy.
I am so glad we got to talk about this again. I've never gotten to talk about this with anyone. I've wanted so badly to discuss this with somebody, and you're the one.
I'm your man.
And I'm glad you have cultivated this community of people that get to listen to these things and find out about specials. I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard of this. I hope some of them go ahead and watch it.
Oh, sure.
Know I listened to you one time where you talked about the Wacky Wall Crawlers Christmas. And I was like, I've never heard of this. I sought it out, watched it, and I've now seen it, like every 4th or 5th Christmas. It feels like it's one of those. You throw it out every now and then.
This is why I started this podcast, because I need to talk to people about things like this.
It's so true.
And this was the perfect subject. So thank you. Go watch this, people.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. If you can get it for free, you absolutely should see it. I tried to put it on YouTube for everybody, and YouTube said no. So just so you know, I tried very hard. I was even as a private link, they were like, no way. Pat Boone's lawyers are too strong.
Well, as of this recording, it is streaming on Tubi. I'm not big on watching things on Tubi, but it is streaming for free there if you can bear through some commercials, but that's fine.
Yeah, I wish we had the original commercials for this.
Oh, I wish.
That's my dream, is that hopefully someday somebody uploads a version of this with the commercials.
Someone, if you have it, one of those early VCR adopters out there, go through your archives. In the meantime, Guy, if people want to send you a personal rejection via Singing Telegram, where can they find you on the internet?
Oh, I am on all of the internet stuff at Guy Hutchinson. You can look me up. You can, if you want to know who I am, you can go on any of the social media and just write to me, say, who the heck are you? And I'll tell you. And my biggest thing that I want to promote is this show. I want people to listen to your show every time it comes out. To me, this episode that we just recorded is the one that will be a letdown for me, because when it pops up in my feed, I'll go, oh, an episode of the Advent Calendar House. I'll get all excited. Then I'll be like, oh, it's the one I already listened to because I was there when it was recorded. But this show, I think, is a gem. I think it is a public service, and I am so glad that it exists.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. I am on Twitter at Fall West Mike and also Advent Cal House. You can find complete show notes for all of the rabbit holes we went down tonight, and there were a lot, at adventcalendar.house. Hope you spin back here in a couple of days for another exciting episode. Until then, for Guy Hutchinson, from the world's driest milk bar where people apparently know to reach me by phone, this is Mike Westfall reminding you to go easy on the half and half, and please watch out for that icy patch. Good night! And now, these messages.
Christmas is about traditions. Throughout the holidays, friends and family gather together to share love, laughter, and a bounty of Christmas foods. We all love tracing our family traditions back through the generations to find out where they began. But have you ever wondered about the food found on your holiday tables year after year? Join me, Glenn Warren, as the host of Seasons Eatings, and travel the world as we explore the history and origins of your favorite Christmas foods. New episodes are released every month. You can find Seasons Eatings at seasonseatingspodcast.com and wherever you download your favorite podcast. So join me, Glenn Warren, for your next serving of Seasons Eatings.
Next time on the Advent Calendar House.
Oh, yeah. On the truck, we get